In this video, we will be reacting to Americans sharing their biggest culture shocks in Denmark. Now, I'm an American who has been traveling the world and living abroad for nearly 2 years. And of those nearly 2 years, I spent 14 months living in the Netherlands. Now, the Netherlands is a country that is supposedly very similar to Denmark. So not only will I be comparing America to Denmark, but I'll also be comparing the Netherlands to Denmark. So without further ado, let's get into this first video. Okay, so I don't know what part of the US she's from, but where I grew up in Texas, we had a very similar phenomenon where even though the siren didn't sound exactly the same, it sounded very similar. It's very menacing. I feel like videos like this don't really do it justice. For us, it was a tornado siren, and they would do a practice run, I think every first Wednesday of the month at noon, if I recall correctly. The first Wednesday of the month at noon on the dot, you would hear that alarm. And I'm not gonna lie, again, it's pretty menacing, especially if it's something that you're not accustomed to experiencing. They also had one in the Netherlands. I don't really know what that alarm was for because I don't believe they really have tornadoes, and I certainly don't know what the one in Denmark is for. So if you know about this, which I'm sure you do if you're Danish, please enlighten me in the comments because I don't really see what the alarm would be for. I guess for a wartime situation, or maybe if there's some sort of nuclear reactor emergency like what happened in Chernobyl. I don't really know, but I assume it's not for tornadoes like it is in Texas. So definitely let me know more in the comments below. This person right here said, "We forget from year to year. I personally find it comforting to know the sirens are in working order considering the political climate in the world right now." Honestly, that's kind of sad. It's sad to read that, and I guess that kind of contextualizes what that alarm is there for. It's for wartime situations or similar, which, I mean, I don't really know too much about Denmark's history. I don't know if it's been a country of peace or of war primarily. I guess every country has had its skirmishes in the past, but I mean, I would have to imagine Denmark's not really bothering anyone, so what would be the reason for a country to attack Denmark? This other person right here said, "I've grown up with the siren each year, but the phone notification is new and that startles me every time." So there's a phone notification as well. What's that all about? Because we don't have that in Texas. We don't have a practice phone notification. What we do have is Amber Alerts, and that's a whole different discussion for a whole different day. But those scare me as well, and I have been getting them for pretty much my whole life, for as long as I've had a smartphone. On to the next video.
The shocks I had after moving from California to Copenhagen. There is a huge drinking culture here, but what I was surprised by was how you can just openly drink alcohol on the buses, the trains, down the street. At all hours of the day, there's going to be multiple people just sipping on Carlsbergs or Tuborg beers or anything else. At home in San Francisco, it is legal to drink in the parks. And in other cities like New Orleans and stuff, there are some open container laws in specific areas. But I am like still just shocked by everyone just openly drinking on public transportation. I'm almost getting like nervous when I see them. I'm like, you aren't gonna get a ticket? Like no one's gonna yell at you?
I'm not gonna lie, I have never even had so much as a sip of alcohol in my life. So I didn't even know that it wasn't legal to carry around an open container in the US. I never would have expected that because, I mean, you can smoke cigarettes in public. So what difference does it make whether you can drink beer in public or in private? doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference. But evidently, the US disagrees. And honestly, I feel like the US is more so trying to disincentivize people from drinking overall. When you think about the fact that you have to be 21 years old to drink, which apparently in Denmark, according to this comment right here, you can drink at the age of 16. I mean, it seems like in the US, it's more about avoidance of alcohol. Maybe I'm a product of that because, again, I myself don't drink. Whereas in Denmark and perhaps in other European countries, I know in the Netherlands, you have to be 18 to drink alcohol. It's more about learning to drink responsibly. And when you have that kind of responsibility, you can be afforded more freedom and more power. Hence why this person right here said, "Welcome to the free world." People in Denmark are a lot freer in many ways than people in the US, because people in Denmark and the Netherlands, based on my experience, have freedom from, compared to the US, where you have freedom to. People in the US, they have the freedom to purchase a handgun. Hence what this person right here said, "I never understood the open container issue. You can buy a handgun but not drink a beer." You have the freedom to buy a handgun, but in Denmark and the Netherlands, you have the freedom from being shot in a public space. Me personally, I know what type of freedom is more appealing to me. And I assume that if you live in Denmark, you probably have a pretty similar viewpoint. But in terms of alcohol specifically, I mean, again, I don't really see what the point of not allowing people to drink in public really is. Because alcohol is alcohol, whether you drink it at home, in public, on the bus, wherever else. On to the next video.
Good morning, y'all. So this is me and Malika's first official day in Denmark. We're gonna be here for a few years because she got a really great job opportunity. As you can see, my eyes are super swollen because I cried all day. I didn't expect for it to be such a big culture shock for me. Everything is different. I think it's just gonna be an adjustment. Not only was the trip coming here like very difficult, very strenuous, but it was a big culture shock once I got here. It's different from Malika. She adapts and acclimates very well to different places because she was in the Navy, so she's kind of used to this. But for me, this is the first time I'm in a different country. One thing we didn't know or consider before we got here was that most of the properties here don't have central AC. They have fans, or they have little, I guess, portable AC units that you can buy, but we didn't know that most of the places didn't come equipped with central AC. Another thing is that people here stare a lot, and I was already expecting that because I see a lot of black people say when they travel to other countries that are not used to seeing black people, they do stare a lot. But here, I can't really tell if they're staring like it's a problem or they're staring just because, you know, they're curious and they haven't seen many black people in the area and they're probably just wondering why we're here. The next store we went to, Malika left me in a car because I was tired and I didn't feel like getting out. These three girls, they passed by and one of them looked in the car. She looked me dead in my face and then she turned around and I don't know what she said because my windows were rolled up, but she said something to her two friends and they all looked back and looked at me and laughed so loud. We are not the type of people that make everything about race, so I can't really make out like what the stares are about. Some people are really nice, but we did come across a rude guy who worked at the grocery store. When he rung us up, when he was done, we usually sign a receipt because we have an American credit card, so they make us sign a receipt anytime we use our card. And he just completely snatched the receipt from Malika, and he didn't speak to us when we walked up. But when the lady behind us walked up, he spoke to her, he smiled, he was talking to her. We also had another encounter at a separate grocery store. We were in there shopping for some food, and this family was passing by us, and the little girl saw us, and she gasped so loud, like, and she was looking at us, but then when we looked over there, she immediately looked away. I've been trying to lock myself in a hotel because I just don't want no problems. I don't know how these people are over here. So I just been trying to just stay out of the way because I'm not a passive person. If you trying to start something with me, I'm gonna react. And Malika's the complete opposite. She knows how to ignore people. She knows how to ignore ignorance, and I'm just not that way. I'm just hoping that day by day it gets better. They misplaced our luggage, so it's just now getting here today. And so y'all could just come with me on this journey to see if things get better. At the end of the day, it's racism everywhere. I'm not gonna act like it's not racism in America. I just feel less comfortable here because this ain't my country, but I'm not finna let a few bad encounters, a few racist people ruin it for me, because we here in Europe for just a few years. We here for a good time, not a long time, and we finna get lit, have fun, live our life, and ignore the ignorance, period.
So this video right here is a very good representation of the reality, the raw reality of moving overseas, especially to a place you have never previously been to. Now, I think in my case, I had it a little bit easier because I moved to a country where I already had someone there who was from the country and can show me the ins and outs of the country and tell me more about the customs and what to expect with day-to-day living there. Clearly, she did not have that. She went in blind and she hit a wall. And she's probably going to keep hitting walls over and over and over again, because that's what happens when you move to other countries. For as much as people like myself like to glorify it, even moving to a place like Denmark, which has been routinely ranked as one of the top happiest countries in the whole world, if not the happiest country in the whole world, you're going to experience some major friction along the way, and that's okay. The key is how you respond and adapt to it. And what it really comes down to, in my experience, is just understanding the culture. When you understand the culture, you understand why people act the way they act, you tend to approach things with a much more lenient perspective. You're willing to give people a lot more space to simply operate as themselves while understanding that they're not necessarily infringing upon you and your identity. So for example, with the staring thing, I've experienced that a lot here in Vietnam. Didn't really experience that a whole lot in the Netherlands, but here in Vietnam, I experienced a lot of that. In Thailand, I experienced a lot of that as well, but more so here. And what I quickly realized was, well, I see why they're staring at me. I've been here for, a month and a half as I film this, going on 2 months, and I've seen a total of one other black man. One other black man in this whole area since I got here. Of course people are gonna stare, especially kids. Most of these kids here have probably never seen a black man in person in their whole entire lives. So of course they're going to stare, they might gasp because kids are expressive. Now, when we talk about the teenage girl and her friends who were laughing at her for no apparent reason, people like that, they just weren't raised right. I mean, honestly. And I feel like teenagers, they tend to be rebellious and they don't really think before they act, so on and so forth. Especially teenage girls, I think everyone knows they can be some of the absolute most evil, devious people on the planet. But I digress. More often than not, when people are staring, it's because they're simply curious. Now, I think maybe the friction here is that obviously she is a black American woman. Within our culture, when I say our culture, I'm not just referring to American culture, I'm referring to African American culture. Staring is heavily frowned upon. Usually, when you stare at people, it's a sign that you want trouble. And when you look for trouble, you will generally find it very, very quickly. So I think that's a big part of why for her, it not only makes her uncomfortable, but clearly, as you saw toward the end of the video, sort of puts her in a hostile mood. And for me, I actually found myself feeling very similarly when I first noticed that people were doing that to me, especially in Thailand. People were literally just turning their whole entire bodies to look at me as I walked by with my girlfriend. And I was like, I don't know if they're staring because I'm black with a white woman, or what's going on. But I'm like, man, why are these people staring at me? But what I had to realize was it's just normal in their culture. I had a similar experience in Switzerland. I had someone staring at me. When I turned to look at them, they kept staring. In the US, when you turn and look at somebody when they're staring, they typically look away because they know it's not something that is socially acceptable within that culture, especially, again, within African American culture. Clearly, in Danish culture, it is much more acceptable to do that. And so people do it. And you have to be willing to adapt to that. Now, again, there are certain situations that I don't believe anyone is obligated to adapt to. When people are openly making fun of you, in my opinion, that says a lot more about them than it does about you. But I also would not take that isolated incident as an implication on Danish culture as a whole.